And when you look back at the incident, first of all, what were you thinking when these guys approached you on the porch? What was your main thought?
Well, at first I was not entirely sure what was going on, and then I was a little confused. And then when the guy pulled his gun out, then I was quite worried because I knew that it was dangerous, and I was concerned. They had said they wanted to come into the house. I knew I didn't want them to come into the house. And
your wife and your
right, my wife and son were in there
in the house.
Yeah, and so I was great. You know, obviously it was very scary when he shot the gun. But
what did he say to you before?
He said, first he came up and said, "Excuse me, we don't want to harm you. We just want you to let us into your house." And then I said, "No." And then he said, "We have a gun." And then he drew a gun out of his jacket. And then I said, "No, no, no." And I sort of held my hands apart at my sides. And then he, fairly shortly after that, just shot me in the knee and then ran away. And so I was, if anything, I was greatly relieved to see him running away.
Imagine going outside of your own home to put out the garbage when all of a sudden two men approach you with guns. Well, that is exactly what happened to a federal judge here on Detroit's west side last night. Police sources telling Action News Judge Berg, Terrence Berg, a U.S. District Court judge, was taking out the trash around 9 last night outside of his home here on Oak Drive near 7 Mile and Livernois on Detroit's west side, when out of nowhere, two men tried to get him to take them into his house. Now, there was a struggle. A gunshot would go off, hitting Judge Berg in the leg.
What was your first thoughts when you heard that there was going to be an arrest in your case?
Well, I was pleased. I was glad that they had made an arrest. I had been somewhat kept up to date that they were working hard on the case, and I really have a lot of admiration for the task force. They had a violent crime task force that involved the Detroit Police Department.
Were you confident that they were going to catch the guy, or did after a while time went by, were you starting to wonder, well,
I knew it would be a difficult case because unlike a lot of home invasions or the kinds of crimes where there's evidence like stolen property or something like that, I knew there was no stolen property from my case.
Right. And
that in many ways it was just a random event that would be difficult to investigate.
Right.
And so I was confident in their abilities because I knew they were working really hard on it. But I really didn't know whether anyone would ever be arrested.
And does this give you any better understanding? You were a prosecutor and now you're a judge and you sentence people. Does it give you any more better understanding? Do you think you're tougher? Would you be tougher on crime or a little bit more lenient, or have you thought about that?
I have given that a fair amount of thought because we deal with cases where there may be victims who might possibly be victims of gunshots, for example. And I know that I think, more empathetic and I'm more understanding of what a victim goes through than I was before. I think I am more conscious than ever of the importance of trying to stay impartial, even though I've had a bad experience with crime myself. And so I know I'm concerned about that. I haven't felt especially angry or anything like that in any of my cases.
And this holiday, is it a little more special? That, I mean, is it sort of a little reminder of that you have the basic, life and, and everything else?
No question.
How do you
another thing,
approach Christmas this year as opposed to previous?
This has been a year to really think about things like this because I had my incident. My wife actually went through a breast cancer surgery as well. And so we are definitely looking at this year as a really special year to give thanks for being alive and for having our family and all the gifts that we have in our lives. And so, yeah, it's a special Christmas, a special time for us with our family.
Yeah. People, somebody who would be shot in front of their home might think, all right, time to move time to go to the suburbs. Has it changed your view of Detroit in any way?
No, it really hasn't. I mean, no one, I don't think anyone who lives in Detroit doesn't know that Detroit has a crime problem. That's part of, unfortunately, our city. But it also has supportive neighborhoods, which we have where we live, and it also can provide and does provide safe places for people to live. So we don't plan on moving to the suburbs. I mean, we're dealing with the future empty nest thing, so I don't know what may happen, down the line. But I think we'd prefer to stay in Detroit if we can. That's what we'd prefer.